All right, so welcome back for video number 2 on the channel. I would like to thank I want to say 11 people that watched the first video. I appreciate it very much. So today we're going to get right into it. Again, I'm Joel Hunter, and I'm here to talk about fitness and specifically how to lose weight successfully and feel better. So today we're going to begin with how to begin. It's basically why do diets fail? Or to word that in a more positive way, what's a way to make sure that the start actually sticks? New Year's resolutions are notoriously fleeting, and gyms are very, very full in January, and then much less so by St. Patrick's Day, I feel like. Maybe it's related to that. I don't know, but I don't think it is. It's related to the way that discipline and habits are formed, and so it's almost like you're starting off with a certain amount of willpower dollars, a willpower wallet, and you've got a certain amount to spend at the beginning. There's just this discipline that's involved in that. Now, sure, as time goes on, willpower and discipline, like anything else, it's something that's earned and it grows, but you start the way that you start, and so there's at least enough desire to start doing something. And so the problem is when we start with the wrong thing. And so I'm going to tell you right now what I think that is, what it's been in my experience and what I've watched happen. And the more I've studied on this, the more convinced I am that I'm right. So when we're getting fit, we tend to focus in the wrong area first, something that's fine-tuning and does matter long term, but it's not the most impactful, and it's certainly not the most easy thing to do at the beginning. And I'll quit beating around the bush. I'm talking about hard exercise. So to me, it's the equivalent of if you were deciding, my car it's a piece of junk. I'm going to do something about it. I don't like driving it because it's all gross all the time, and there's no windshield wiper fluid, and it's a clunker, as you would say if you describe cars that way. And so for me, hard exercise at the beginning of getting fit is the equivalent of, going to the store and getting a bunch of mechanics tools and trying to take apart the engine to your car and clean spark plugs with cotton swabs and stuff. I don't really know how engines work, but doing something like that, something that's really, really highly involved and probably would overall increase the value of your car down the road. But meanwhile, you're ignoring all of the fillet of fish boxes and trash that's piled up around inside the car. It's much, much easier to go around and actually just clean up the inside of the car first. And it would make it much more enjoyable to drive, much more aesthetically pleasing. And it's a relatively low effort way to do things. And so you're spending just a little bit of discipline to clean out the inside of the car, as compared to the idea of doing this, heavily involved, huge project that's dealing with the engine. And the car and the engine thing, that analogy is something that we're probably going to come back to quite a bit with the human body, because that's how exercise works. Between cardio, which helps your heart, the most important muscle, and weightlifting and high intensity interval training, which improve, general muscle tone, which helps to burn more calories. All of that stuff is kind of what's the horsepower that your body can run at. But it's not the easiest way to lose weight. You don't burn nearly as many calories with exercise weightlifting as you do with simple walking, specifically. And so it's best if you're just looking for, like, what's the way for me to put my toe in the water and to keep my toe in the water rather than, jumping in and jumping out. What's the best way to start and stay started? The easiest way is with the foods that you eat. And again, it's possible to go way too far with this at the beginning. Big diets where you're, going from eating the way that everybody eats to, really restrictive eating it does work temporarily, but it uses tremendous amounts of your discipline. And what happens is your body adapts to that. And so, even with the same amount of discipline, your hunger genuinely increases, your cravings genuinely increase, your desire to sit still, the difficulty with exercise, it genuinely increases. And so, say it requires 8 out of 10 resolve to do that diet. 8 out of 10 may be enough at the beginning, but it's not going to be enough once you get usually a couple of months into it, because once you've lost a certain amount of body weight, those things will override things. And so it would require 9 out of 10 discipline or 10 out of 10 discipline. And there's hardly anyone, maybe 1 in a billion, but not me, and probably not you either. Maybe 1 in a billion could do that for their entire life, but almost everybody needs to have some sort of diet nutrition plan that they can follow for the rest of their life, where it doesn't feel super restrictive all the time. And so the best way to put your toe in the water and keep it in the water when it comes to actually doing something that's going to impact things is to make the first change to your diet. And the good thing is, at the beginning, it's kind of like with the car. It's relatively easy to pick up the fillet of fish wrappers. Can you tell I used to like fillet of fish? I don't know why. On paper, it should be disgusting, but they taste good. Anyway, I don't eat them anymore. So if you've got a car that's just got all this trash inside of it, it's pretty easy to just clean that stuff out. And that's kind of how our diet stuff is at the beginning. So we don't have to use tons and tons of discipline at the beginning to make a change that's going to be impactful, that genuinely will decrease the fat stores that you have. It will either make you gain fat slower, keep you the same weight, or most likely help you to lose fat, depending on either how bad your diet is or how seriously you take the advice to do the following. Cut out added sugar. That would be my recommendation to anyone who's like, what's the first step I should take in doing this? It's to cut out added sugar. On one hand, because the typical American diet has so much added sugar, it'll seem like that's kind of restrictive. But truthfully, it's not. There's a tremendous amount of food variety that you can have that just doesn't have added sugar. And on the packaging for food, it has to tell you if it has added sugar. Now, you should know, secretly, they add sugar under different code names, different spy names for sugar. If you see anything that says corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, cane sugar, Florida crystals is one of them. There's about 60 different names for sugar if it's added into a product, but it has to have it on the label somewhere. And there's actually websites online where you can look up like different names for added sugar, and they list them all out. There's one doctor in particular, Robert Lustig, a man who hates sugar with a passion. It's fun to hear him talk about it just because he gets real mad about sugar. But he's got a list of those things if you type in, lists of other names for sugar. But anyway, the best way to avoid added sugar by far is if you eat real food. And so that would be things that don't come in a bag, a box, or a package in general. You can find things that are in bags and boxes and packages that don't have added sugar. But if you get something where the ingredient list is just one ingredient, like meat or banana or strawberry, then you can know, okay, there's not extra added sugar here. The ingredient list begins and ends with this thing that I'm holding in my hand, because things that don't come in a box or a bag or a package that are whole foods, unprocessed foods, they will naturally not have any added sugar to them. Processed foods have some things added to them that make them naturally higher in calories and usually less satiating, so that you're hungrier in general. So we'll get more into that stuff as time goes on, but that's step number one. The way to start and stay started is to not start with, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to lift until my arms feel like they're going to fall off and I'm going to be so sore it's hard to get out of bed the next morning. I'm going to go from zero to CrossFit champion. Those are all things that we see portrayed in TV and movies and stuff like that. But in real life, you spend a whole lot of discipline to get really minimal results before you're just burned out and so hungry that you eat more and end up gaining more weight than you started off with. So the way to start and stay started is to do something that doesn't require tons of discipline dollars. Is that what we're calling them? and it's just to take added sugar out of your food. You can make tremendous gains on that. And a bonus feature to that is you'll find you don't get nearly as hungry, because sugar does things to your blood sugar with your insulin levels, and that affects how much satiety you have, how full you feel. And we'll get into all that in later videos as well. So avoiding added sugar, and just as one little extra bonus there, that includes drinks. So it doesn't mean you can only have water. Diet soda is great. There are tons of good tasting drinks that have flavors to them that have zero added sugar. And so if you look for that on the packaging, that matters. You don't ever want to drink your calories, because it's a waste of good food that you could be eating. So that's the number one tip that we've got. Now I'm going to walk around the back of this and turn off the camera, and I will see you next time. We'll have the next video up in 48 hours or less.